It was a regular Saturday afternoon, and I found myself at the local mall. The place was bustling with shoppers, and I was in the mood for some retail therapy. The fluorescent lights above me cast an eerie glow on the linoleum floors, giving the mall an otherworldly ambience. Little did I know that this mundane trip to the mall would turn into one of the most unsettling experiences of my life. After browsing through a few stores, I felt the need to visit the restroom. Following the signs, I entered a dimly lit corridor leading to the women's bathroom. The restroom was empty, and I walked in, not thinking much of it. As I walked past the sinks and toward the stalls, I noticed something peculiar. There was a small hole in the wall right next to one of the stalls. It was about the size of a quarter, and it sent a shiver down my spine. My initial thought was that it must be some maintenance-related hole, but the location and size seemed strange. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off about it. Curiosity got the better of me, and I approached the hole cautiously. I leaned in, trying to peer through it. My heart began to race as I realized that I could see into the adjacent men's bathroom through the hole. Panic and discomfort washed over me, and I quickly turned away, realizing the gravity of the situation. Just as I was about to leave the restroom, a wave of dread swept over me. I heard the sound of heavy breathing coming from the men's side. It was a sinister, unsettling sound that made every hair on the back of my neck stand on end. I felt trapped, torn between wanting to flee and needing to know what was happening. My mind was racing with terrifying thoughts. I could see a man's hand approaching the hole, fingers trembling as they touched the wall. Suddenly, an unsettling and obscene figure appeared on the other side. It was a pervert who had inserted something unspeakable into the hole. The shock and revulsion I felt were beyond words. Tears welled up in my eyes as I realized the true horror of the situation. The man on the other side was exposing himself, taking advantage of this strange hole to invade the privacy of women in the restroom. It was an unspeakable violation, and I was filled with a mixture of fear, anger, and disgust. I quickly backed away from the hole and rushed out of the restroom, my heart pounding in my chest. I needed to find security and report this horrifying incident. As I exited the restroom, I was relieved to see a mall security guard patrolling the corridor. My words came out in a trembling rush as I explained the horrifying scene I had witnessed. The security guard acted promptly, rushing into the men's restroom to apprehend the perpetrator. The police were called, and they arrested the man responsible for his disturbing actions. I was interviewed by the authorities and later assured that they would handle the situation appropriately. That day at the mall, I had encountered a nightmare I couldn't have imagined. It was a horrifying reminder that even in the most ordinary places, we can stumble upon the darkest and most unsettling experiences. The fear and shock of that day have left an indelible mark on me, a reminder of the darkness that can lurk in the most unexpected of places. I've never been one for shopping, but my friend had convinced me to join her for a trip to the mall. It was a typical Saturday afternoon, and the mall was buzzing with people looking for the best deals and the latest fashion trends. I tagged along, hoping to make the best of it. As we meandered through the mall, my friend decided to check out a few clothing stores. I, on the other hand, felt the pressing need to visit the restroom. I made my way to the women's bathroom, which, to my surprise, was deserted. The dimly lit corridor leading to the restroom created an eerie atmosphere, but I brushed it off and entered one of the empty stalls. I was in the middle of attending to a personal errand when I noticed something odd out of the corner of my eye. It was a small hole in the wall, right next to the toilet paper dispenser. It wasn't large, about the size of a quarter, but it struck me as peculiar. I leaned in for a closer look, wondering why such a hole would be here. My curiosity quickly turned to unease as I noticed a faint glint of light on the other side. As I peered through the hole, I was startled to see an eye looking back at me. It was chillingly wide open, and the person on the other side was clearly watching me. I gasped in shock and stumbled back from the stall, pulling up my pants in a hurry. My heart raced as I considered the unsettling implications of this bizarre situation. I didn't know who was on the other side of that hole, but I felt a deep sense of invasion and violation. Panic welled up inside me as I imagined the person's intentions. I had to get out of there, and fast. With trembling hands, I managed to compose myself enough to let out a loud scream. It was a reflex, a desperate cry for help. I knew that I needed to draw attention to my predicament. My scream echoed through the restroom, and I heard hurried footsteps approaching. The door to the restroom swung open, and a concerned woman rushed in. I quickly pointed to the hole in the wall, struggling to find the right words to explain what I had just witnessed. The woman's eyes widened in alarm as she saw the hole, and she didn't waste a second. She called out to the mall security on her phone and assured me that help was on the way. I waited anxiously, my fear and discomfort growing with each passing second. The thought of that eye on the other side haunted my thoughts. I had never felt so vulnerable and violated in my life. It didn't take long for the mall security to arrive. They examined the hole in the wall and immediately began searching for any potential culprits. The incident was reported to the police, and an investigation was launched to identify the person responsible for this unsettling violation of privacy. The whole experience left me shaken, and I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. It was a stark reminder that danger can lurk in even the most ordinary of places, like a mall restroom. I hope that the authorities will find the person behind that sinister eye in the wall and bring them to justice. But the fear of encountering such a disturbing situation still lingers in the back of my mind. The incident has forever changed the way I view seemingly harmless places, reminding me that the world can be a much darker and more unsettling place than we'd like to believe. It was an unusually quiet evening in the park. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the empty playground. I had a personal errand to run, and the nearest public restroom was at the other end of the park. Unfortunately, it was the only option, so I started making my way towards it. As I approached the restroom building, I noticed that the women's restroom was closed for maintenance. Frustrated, I glanced around to ensure no one was watching. And then, I cautiously entered the men's restroom. It was eerily empty, and the dim lighting did little to ease my discomfort. I walked toward an empty stall, but something caught my eye as I passed by the last urinal. There, in the dingy tile wall, was a strange hole. My curiosity got the best of me, and I couldn't help but peer into it. It was an unsettling sight, to say the least. Just as I was about to continue on to the stall, I heard a rustling sound from behind the wall. I froze, my heart racing. It wasn't long before I saw a grotesque sight. A pervert had pushed his way through the hole and was exposing himself on the other side. I was paralyzed by shock and fear, and my first instinct was to scream. I couldn't believe what I was witnessing. In a fit of adrenaline-fueled panic, I acted without thinking. I reached out and slammed my hand into the genitals on the other side of the wall, the man's scream echoing in response. As I withdrew my hand, the man on the other side was now in a state of panic. He began pounding on the bathroom wall, desperately trying to free himself from the bathroom stall. My own screams continued to pierce the air as I backed away, my mind reeling from the surreal and horrifying encounter. I quickly fled the restroom and reported the incident to the authorities, who arrived on the scene promptly. The man was apprehended, and I was left with a chilling memory of that fateful day in the park. The experience left me shaken to my core, a stark reminder that darkness can lurk in the most unexpected places, even in the most peaceful settings.